Hey everyone, this is Mark Zuber. This is the Life Skills Guy. How is everyone today? I'm feeling
Awesome!
awesome today. I'm still home recovering, but it gives me an opportunity to talk to you with this off podcast time. And today's topic is not always the easiest one to talk about, but it is an important one nonetheless. And today we are just talking about what we need to think about as our child gets older. So, as we get older, as we do know, sometimes, and I'm not saying everybody, but sometimes we tend to look at our own child um, with special needs, and there are people who tend to feel sorry. And I'm not saying that we should push them to the wolves or whatever. But when we consider that that's the way we look at their type of life, that can also lead into, we got to be careful because that can lead into some negative consequences along the way. And there are things that we should follow and we do, but we need to make sure that we do not overdo it. We need to put steps in place, but we do not need to make sure that we do not overdo it. Because what happens is that we are not preparing them for life. And as parents or as educators or as whoever is helping them, we have to understand that we are not always going to be there. And as much as we'd like to think we will be, there will be a time that we may not be there. And so we have to plan for that. And that's one of those things that we have to come to grips with too. And it's hard. So, what I'm trying to say is we have to think about that, especially as educators and things like that. So, when you have a child, for example, you are having them in school and you want them to learn and you're trying to get them to learn, the habits that you're forming them right then and now, um, you have to understand what you're doing could impact them later on. So you better have a good plan on how you're going to continue that forward. And it's just like with parenting, it's the same way. For example, within the school setting, if your main way of getting kids to do what you want them to do, which there is some value in it, and I'm not suggesting there isn't, is to uh, promote and reward right instantaneous with food, food reinforcements or iPad reinforcements, then you better figure out a way to eventually decrease those as they get older. Because what would happen is if you're still doing that when you get to the middle school or even to the high school, those behaviors are not as effective and eventually can cause problems for themselves. So, what are you saying? What does that mean? Well, for example, everyone's ultimate goal should be that you want your child to be as independent as possible. You would want them to think, well, you know what? I want my child to grow up, get a job. I want my child to work. I want my child to be a happy, fulfilled life. But the problem is if we don't get them to understand that if you just give them something every time, um, and what's going to happen is they're not going to know how to think for themselves or react or do whatever. And they're just going to expect it all the time. And if you're not there, somebody else who they might not know or what they're working with m- might not do it. And then what's going to happen? They might shut down. And so you don't want to get into a habit. So you have to have like a plan that you wean things off. And you want to start making it intrinsically where they feel good about themselves and they learn how to work through difficult situations and not shut down. So we do really need to have that kind of plan going forward. Because what we don't want is I'm not working unless I get something A, B, and C. And I know what people say, well, you get paid to do what you do. Well, that's what we want them to do. But at the same time, if I don't get paid, I'm not going to sit on the floor. I'm not going to throw a fit. I'm not asking them to do different things. I still can do my stuff. But the reward that you were doing them to give them things is not as effective because now they just expect it all the time. And in the real world, we don't get things like that all the time. You don't get paid every day. Otherwise, every 5 minutes they should be giving you $1 or whatever. And that's the thing. Like, they want instantaneous rewards. Like, you don't get paid every 5 seconds. You get paid maybe every week or every 2 weeks, and they don't even understand that. They think it's, I went and got my pencil, now here it is. Now give it to you. I took that picture, now give it to you. And so they have to understand. And they have to understand that sometimes the word no is okay. If you can't get it to them right now, that's okay. Sometimes things break. Sometimes things needs to be charged. Sometimes things, we don't have money for things. And they have to learn to accept no. And other times they have to understand that as you get older, there are situations where they are not going to be first. And they have to wait. And so when we try to go with the mindset that, my child has a disability, or I tend to think of them as I feel sorry for them, the time is when they get older, is other people don't always see it that way. And they don't always feel that way. And so what we need to teach them is that the fact is that you can sit and wait your turn. And there are natural consequences to things like that. Now, we should teach them that stuff, and we should have a little compassion, but at the same time, we need to make them and teach them to understand that this is the way we work. This is the way society is. For example, I was at a amusement park. There was a couple children who were special needs, and they were in line. The line was moving. They kept getting in and out, and in and out, and in and out. Now, the people let them back in. But what are we teaching them? Are we teaching them that they can do whatever they want? Are we teaching that it's okay that you can just go in and out of the line? Is that what we're trying to teach people? Would you teach your non-special needs child that they can just do whatever they want? We should have some same types of standards for children who have disabilities and not disabilities when it comes to being in some areas, especially in those areas. We need to teach them, like, there are consequences. You need to learn how to wait and be patient. You cannot just cut in front of others. And you might think, well, that's really nothing. That's too hard. But okay, so here's the change. What if that special needs kid cut in front of your kids or your special needs kids, and they got the last thing that was going on? Now, you didn't get it. They have to learn that it's sometimes you're just going to have to wait for things. Not everything's going to be given to you in a matter of seconds. Now, like I said, things have to be taught to them. Now, I know I sound hard and I sound tough, but at the same time, I feel as if I am doing more justice and good things for students by teaching them those realities and helping them prepare for a job and their independence than if I was just to hand it to them. And I think parents do that for the most part. And I think we need to do a lot better in schools teaching them how to do that. Because it's not just them to understand it. Other kids and other adults and everybody else have to be taught and learn too. Because that's what we have to do. We have to teach. We have to learn. And I think that's kind of what we need to work on. So that's kind of my brain break for today, the podcast, is just to kind to understand that we need to teach kids that if we need to reward them, that's fine. But we need a plan going forward. So we're not still giving them something to, a piece of food as soon as they do something. I mean, eventually we want it intrinsically, but we need to make sure that everything is doing, that they can take the word no and criticism and not flip out. And then when we do teach them, there are natural consequences sometimes to their actions. And that in doing that, we can prepare them for their future, prepare them for work, prepare them for a better life, everything that we always want. All right? Well, I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate you listening. And I hope that some of that makes a little sense to anybody who's listening out there. And like I said, everything in this world is changing. And I just want them to be prepared as much as possible. All right? Well, I'll check you next time. Thank you for celebrating with us today. This is the Life Skills Guy, Mark Zuber, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.